Film School Slacker contains adult language and themes. Listener discretion is advised.
And welcome to Film School Slacker, the podcast where I go through my it's now even bigger watch list because we've been off for a few weeks. And I'm Ian.
I'm Meghan.
And we've been out for a few weeks just because life is crazy.
Life is a little crazy now.
You know, I was working on a different project. You've been doing work stuff.
Got a job and then got an early entry into that job.
Immediately deployed in that job, like off to different lands. Yeah. So it's been kind of a wild time, but we're trying to remember how this works, and we're going to jump in. And we may have teased this. I can't remember what episode we teased it, but we are gonna start a run of X-Men movies.
Da, 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 da. So we're starting with X-Men from 2000, rated PG-13, 1 hour 44 minutes long, starring Patrick Stewart, Hugh Jackman, Ian McKellen, Famke Janssen, James Marsden, Halle Berry, Anna Paquin.
Holy shit.
Ray Park, Rebecca Romaine, Bruce Davison, among others.
I didn't know that it was that stacked.
It is a stacked cast.
Holy shit.
Directed by Bryan Singer, written by Tom DeSanto, Bryan Singer, and David Hayter. Hayter.
Isn't he? If we had Kevin here, I think he's also a voice actor, unless it's a different guy named David Hayter, which is a possibility. But
let's see, filmography. He might be.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's cool.
He's a voice actor.
I did not know that he also was a writer, because I'd heard him in. So Kevin and I have done some playthroughs. Yeah. And he's also in. He might be in something in like Metal Gear Solid. I'm not versed enough in it, but I know that like Kevin's like, oh no, this guy is like everywhere in video game voice acting.
I'm scrolling through he's all over the place. Star Wars, Dragon Age, Marvel Heroes, Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah, Metal Gear Solid is what I knew he was.
Yeah, Super Smash Bros. Brawl.
Nice.
So yeah.
Oh, probably because he's a character from because Super Smash Bros. Is like everybody, right? It's like from different game. Know. Yeah, it's like it's a fight. It's like a fighting game but everyone's from a different game. Yeah. So he must be one of his other characters.
Game universes.
That's super fun.
So yeah, he wrote the screenplay for this. The other two guys did the story.
Okay.
So yeah, this X-Men and Spider-Man 2 actually kind of hold special places in my heart. They are the IPs that kind of got me into superheroes when I was a wee child. And by wee, I mean like 11.
Gotcha.
Or like 9. I guess this came out in 2000. I didn't see it in theaters or anything. I didn't see it until a couple of years after, but I was like 10, 11.
Sure. Sure.
But yeah, just this whole like trilogy.
Yeah.
The first X-Men trilogy, I guess, because there's 3 more. There's more. There's so much more.
There's more X-Men trilogies?
Well, there's X-Men, X2, X3.
Right, which is the first set.
Then there's X-Men First Class. What's the second one? Shit. It doesn't go from First Class to Days of Futures Past, does it? Okay, now I have to look this up. God damn it. All right.
Gotta Google it.
Give me a second. Oh, yeah. Okay. So, 13 X-Men movies.
Cheesy Pete.
Including Deadpool and New Mutants.
Got it. Okay.
So, X-Men, X2, X-Men United, X-Men The Last Stand, X-Men Origins Wolverine,
right.
X-Men First Class, The Wolverine.
Great.
Which is basically just Wolverine goes to Japan and fights basically giant Iron Man.
Look, I'm cool with that.
X-Men Days of Futures Past, which is probably my favorite.
Okay.
Then Deadpool, then X-Men Apocalypse, Logan, which we will definitely have to watch, and then Deadpool 2, Dark Phoenix. Forgot about that one.
I had no idea there were so many.
The New Mutants, which is like it came out in 2020, so it just like totally bombed. Sure.
I feel like here's like I've the only exposure to X-Men that I have is like maybe a couple of actual comics when I was quite young,
right?
And Deadpool.
Okay.
So like I know the idea of a lot of the characters through just like osmosis.
Yeah.
But this is my first real foray.
Oh man.
And I'm terrified that I'm either gonna like I just like I'm worried I'm gonna hate them, but I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like I hope I don't.
I understand.
But I worry that
fear.
I might. Yeah.
I don't think you will.
Okay. But I feel like it's gonna be like one way or the other.
Oh yeah.
It's gonna be polarized. I'm not gonna be like, that was okay.
And there's a lot of just over the movies, there's a lot of kind of variation
in like style and quality
and kind of just character direction, because
it's fragmented.
So First Class takes place back in the 50s and 60s, and that's with James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender.
Right, because it's the young versions.
It's the young version of them.
Got it.
So Days of Future Past is my favorite because it kind of brings everything together and melds it in a way. It's
the big Avengers
kind of
version,
the multiverse.
Got it.
Version.
Oh, is it like
whole
interdimensional? Like, is it like a time
collapsing?
Not really.
It's more of a time travel.
It's
thing.
time travel. Okay.
But yeah, it's really cool, and
all right,
we'll work up to it because I don't think you can kind of. The X-Men movies are kind of more of like the homeworky.
You have to kind of work your way through them.
You kind of have to work your way through them.
Which is kind of why I just haven't.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, it's just kind of like I'm not committed enough, and
I think these first 3
are foundational.
The first 2 for sure. X3 we'll get to because that one is.
That sounds like it's going to be a special treat.
Yeah. It's going to be...
Partially because we're going to have some guests on.
Oh, yeah.
There'll be a whole other podcast on this podcast.
Yeah. It's a podcast within a podcast.
It's a podcastception. It's great.
But yeah, so I think these first 2 are definitely a good starting point. Duh.
Yeah.
But like they're the core of the ideas that kind of get expanded on and explored in other movies.
Right.
So yeah, I think you'll enjoy it. I think you're gonna have a lot of questions that I can hopefully answer because I've seen these movies a lot.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have like obviously like we generally kind of behind the scenes we generally don't have like massive discussions during the screening so we can talk later. But also like occasionally like we will just kind of like. Yeah. Hey,
like,
what? I have a question about
sorry,
blank.
What was that?
Yeah, exactly.
The fuck just happened?
Yeah.
Who's that?
Exactly.
Where am I?
Who am I? Where am I?
How did I get here?
And
then the talking heads
my whole life is just once in a lifetime now. It's
pretty
fine.
Much.
It's fine. All right. Well, sweet. Let's. With that being said, let's roll the tape.
Let's do it.
Okay.
So
I've got some opinions that I don't know what you're gonna think.
All right.
First things first, like this is my hot take is I would put this movie above basically any modern MCU film.
Wow.
For myself.
Okay.
And I just because it's a better movie, like it's a movie.
Yeah.
It's not like this is like a thing that I've thought for a long time about like modern MCU.
Yeah.
Is it's a product. It's a thing that's fun to engage with, but they're not like a movie in the same way I think about other movies.
Okay.
They're kind of their own thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that they're bad. I'm not saying that I don't enjoy them. Like it's not. I'm not trying to like say they're worse or they're whatever.
Yeah.
It's just they're a different kind of thing. They're their own monster.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
The MCU is kind of its own like
bubble.
Yeah. Bubble. It's almost like its own genre at this point.
Yeah, it's its own thing. It has its own set of rules and design language, and it's very specific. And it started with like Iron Man. Like that was kind of the look, and then they kind of just modeled the entire thing after both. They took like the first Iron Man and the first Avengers, and that's kind of been how they've modeled the styling of all those films beyond that. This one was really fun because I've been sort of like, that's been my anchor point for superhero films for a very long time, or comic book adaptation films for a very long time. And because I don't love the like Batman stuff, like Batman is not my favorite.
It's not your jam.
Like I'm not a DC guy in general. Like I find their stuff to be like just kind of gritty for being the sake of being gritty, and like I don't know, it's never been like, it's never taken hold with me. And so with X-Men, like it's still more on the Marvel side. Like I mean, it is Marvel, but it's more in that realm, but it plays like a movie with more feeling and grit and heft to it, where smaller things mean more, right? If that makes sense. Like it's because the problem with like the MCU is like everything is trivial because nothing is trivial. Like it's everything in the MCU. It's like, oh yeah, there's aliens now just coming in, like, oh whatever. It's like you lose that perspective. I call it the Doctor Who problem. Yeah, it's like once everything is on the table, then nothing means anything anymore. Once
everything is an Easter egg, you stop looking for Easter eggs.
It's like everything's on the and like yes, and then also that sense of like we've lost all perspective of what. Best way to describe it, like we've lost all perspective of what something being serious is, because nothing, like everything, like, oh, it's just another day at the office because we've got aliens. Like I miss the idea of there being like one person in the Statue of Liberty trying to cover like one, like the stakes seem high, and it's not like unreasonable. It's not an entire city floating above. It's like somebody is doing what looks like an EMP, or like
it's like a reasonable amount of stakes, rather than like everything, like the whole
like,
world.
It's like, what universe ending situation is happening in
today.
This movie, right? Yeah, like it was a film that had stakes and characters that I felt like invested in, and there was real stakes and concerns with all those different people, and every character made sense and they had a reason for their being, and like it was kind of refreshing. Like to me it felt refreshing. It felt like it was a reset. It felt like it was, everything in it felt like reasonable. Yeah. And it was also just like shot well. And there was a special effects, but the special effects weren't what made the movie. I don't know, like there was just a lot of it, just, and maybe part of it was just like early 2000s nostalgia. That might be a thing, but it tickled me. Like it really like it made me, this is like become now my like standard in like a comic book adaptation.
God, I can't wait for you to see Days of Futures Past. Anyway, so this movie is what pretty much saved the superhero genre, if you will, yeah, because like the 90s had a lot of Batman, right, and Batman and Robin I think was 97. Okay and studios just weren't interested in investing in good superhero movies anymore because they were expensive, they were campy, and the critics and audiences were just kind of hated them. Yeah.
Right. They were becoming something that was fodder for like MST3K or something, instead of it being
rather than like an actual
engaged audience. Yeah.
So
I got you.
Blade, Marvel owns the Blade character. That was 98.
Okay. Who was that? Wesley Snipes?
Yes.
Classic.
Oh, fuck.
We put that on the list, don't we?
You haven't seen Deadpool and Wolverine. Fuck,
I have not. Dude. I'm so sorry. Yeah,
we got to put it on the list because holy shit.
I think it is on my list already.
I love it.
Let me look.
So the success of this movie, like critically and, you know, not societally, but like socially, like people loved it.
Right.
Probably for all the reasons you were saying.
Right.
It didn't feel campy. It wasn't, you know, part of this giant thing yet.
Right.
It was very well made, very conscientiously made, on the part of Bryan Singer, and he stayed true to like the sort of the comic book feel. Yeah, it's a really, I don't know. It just this is the movie.
This is
it. Right. This is the one that spawned everything that has come out of the last 25 years.
This is the Big Bang. This is the Big Bang for like modern superhero movies. And I do feel like, and again, like this is again first exposure to like this era, and I get it. Like I get why people were immediately like, oh wait, this is like what The Last of Us did to media for like adaptations of video games.
Yeah.
You know, like it was like, they're taking it really seriously, being really, really true to the source material, but also taking it on in a cinematic way that's like being honestly, you know. Yeah. Yeah. No, I get it. Like I really genuinely was just 100% blown away by this film. Like I wasn't ready for it, honestly. Like, and it's obviously a little bit cheesy. Like, well, I mean, like there's cheese, but I think that's the thing is like, that's okay because it's a comic book. Yeah. But also like, it also isn't trying to make that, I don't know. I'll think about my thought on that and get back to you. Okay. But let's just go ahead and jump into the notes.
Let's jump into your notes because I am very excited to hear what these are.
There's a few of them. The first thing is like good old 20th Century Fox thing. I haven't seen that in a long time because now it's like 20th Century Studios or whatever. So it's nice to see the old big 20th century. Yeah.
Anyway, probably like in 6 different keys.
I know. God. Never followed that properly. Sorry, gang. So the intro was not totally prepped for the Patrick Stewart voiceover. Yeah. Because I had temporarily just been like, oh, right, Patrick Stewart is Professor X.
It's Patrick Stewart.
Yeah. The first thing, anytime that there's like a Patrick Stewart voiceover, the only thing I can think about is the beginning of Elder Scrolls Oblivion. I'll play it for you later. Okay. There's this opening cinematic in the Elder Scrolls 3 Oblivion. 3? 4? 4?
No idea.
4. I think it's because Skyrim's 5. It's 4. The character of Uriel Septim, like the emperor of Tamriel,
the land,
yes, the world that takes place in legally not Dungeons and Dragons, it's like a mixture of Dungeons and Dragons and Lord of the Rings. It's like the energy for the Elder Scrolls games. And so the Uriel Septim is the old, you know, he's brought peace to the entire, all the king, you know, the whole thing. Probably a little colonial colonizer-y, but anyway, he's like, there's like assassins after him, and he comes down and he like has to escape through your cell in like the dungeon, and so they're just like, well, come with us then, prisoner, and then you like start going through. Okay. But like he's played by Patrick Stewart. I love that. And it's so funny. He's like, you let me see your face, but it's Patrick Stewart's voice. But he does this whole intro cinematic before you start, and so all I can think of the entire time I'm listening to that is just the Patrick Stewart Oblivion intro, and there's like whoever played Oblivion, it's been so long, but anyway, it's stuck in my head because it was from a period of my life.
God, I love Patrick Stewart so much.
I agree. I'm a fan. And the thing is I haven't seen him much even in Star Trek. Like, I really haven't seen much of his Star Trek stuff either.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought you were more... I guess you're more Janeway.
I was Janeway, yeah. That was, like, the more, like... Because I've watched a little bit. Like, I watched the first season of some of the new stuff, like Discovery.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people prefer...
well, he has his own spin-off.
Now. Yeah. And I have not seen that either.
Seen any. Yeah. I haven't seen any of it. I my stepdad was a big fan of Next Generation.
Okay.
So I mean, I was really little when it was on, so I didn't understand what it was, but I've known of Patrick Stewart, and again, like I said, this movie came out in 2000. I was, I probably got really into it when I was, 11, 12 years old,
right?
And that love of superheroes, just sort of has kind followed me
from that totally
since then.
Yeah. So like starting off in the beginning, there's this like early 2000s aesthetic that the whole movie has. It's like kind of hard to describe, but it's it's like the smooth metallic kind of energy.
Yeah.
It's like they're like, oh, it's Windows XP.
Lovely. That futuristic kind of vibe.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it.
Future from the perspective of the 2000s is interesting.
It's weird.
Yeah. And then immediately I'm like, ooh, we're off to a dark start.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And I think
because we start
Magneto
as a kid in
Poland.
At actually it was shot in Canada.
Oh, funny.
At a concentration camp.
Separated from his mother,
and that's how he kind of quote unquote discovers his powers, maybe.
Right.
That is actually more addressed and more gone into in depth in X-Men First Class.
Okay.
And it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
But again, we'll get there.
Yeah. I think, and obviously like this is one of those things where it's like I don't want to like go too in the weeds on like analysis, because these movies have been analyzed to death, and like people, there's like the lore about like X-Men and like the metaphors that X-Men are like have been widely discussed.
It's plug in any marginalized
group and it works perfectly. So like, I mean, I don't want to, I think that saying like, this is very, apropos of today. Like I think you could always say that, which says something about it. And the character of Magneto is definitely one of my favorite kinds of villains, which is one where you definitely get their point.
Yeah.
Where it's like, and truly not just like Thanos being like overpopulation. I'm like, it's more nebulous and hard to like kind of, but this is very relatable at like a very deep human visceral level,
because it's what's the word I'm looking for? Not nebulous, but it's the morally gray of it all.
Yes,
like
it's morally gray.
He's doing bad things for a good reason,
or his convictions and his core belief about the problem is like, I totally understand like why you would feel that way. Yeah,
and that's something that I find the Charles Xavier, Eric Lenscher, / his real name is Max something, but whatever. In the movies, he's Eric. Those like that character relationship, I find just absolutely fascinating.
100%.
Because it's sort of the idealist versus the realist aspect, because Charles is like, I have all this hope and I'm I'm looking for it in you, but you don't have that same hope, but I'm not going to give up on you as a person, as my friend, right? Because we believe the same thing, but you kind of go off into a more extremist slant to it.
Yeah. And I think that, the thing that's interesting is neither option is perfect, right? And they do a good job of showing that. And maybe that's one of the other things I like about this film in comparison to like the Avengers, where everything is sort of like kind of smoothed over, glossy and perfect.
Yeah.
There's this element of like, I in my heart of hearts, like my sort of like lawful good kind of internal being sees, like I like to play more chaotic characters, but like in my heart of hearts, like I would like to think of myself as like a lawful good person, but like Charles Xavier is a good example of that. And there are issues with that.
Yep.
Like you can't just do that when the opposition is not fighting the same way.
Right.
It does. You're appealing to the moral high ground
when you're dealing with people who
just
completely disregard
that. Right. Not that any of this is related to now, glares into the camera.
No, totally not.
But like that's kind of what I see. Like, it's an interesting thing to show the shortcomings of that moral high ground route.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, like you were saying, kind of, showing as I don't have to say it, juxtaposing that against the character who is the exact opposite, who also believes the exact same thing, but has this very, like, I just have to take care of it. I've seen what happens when you don't.
Yeah.
I have this blue string of numbers on my arm that kind of proves what happens when you don't. And so I don't care.
And that aspect to that character is so key. Yeah. And I
can't find an argument against him,
right?
Because if you understand his backstory, you're like, oh, I kind of get it. Like, I really don't want to kill him. I don't want him to kill anybody, but like, I get why he is the way he is.
Why he wants to kill people. I don't, I don't subscribe to that. But
right. I don't subscribe to it, but I understand it. Yeah. Right. Yep. Yeah. Oh, and then we license people to drive, but not to live. Like, there's like right away at the beginning, like there's some really great.
They come out swinging
right away. Yeah. And I was just like, oh yes, and movies just started becoming woke. Like, come on, you guys. Yeah. Did you watch this movie?
Now.
Yeah, they're woke now. Just now. That was the only time it became woke. Off. Jesus. Gandalf.
So funny. Yeah. Funny story. I read in the trivia that originally Ian McKellen turned down the role of Gandalf because it conflicted with the scheduling conflicted with shooting
X-Men?
this.
Really?
But Bryan Singer worked it out so that Ian McKellen could finish all of his stuff for X-Men by the end of
beginning of shooting for
by the end of 1999, and then in January 2000, which was like 3 months after they started shooting for Lord of the Rings,
and then he was able to jump.
So he was able to jump into Lord of the Rings.
So he shot all of that at the same time.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's a lot. Ian McKellen is just both he and Patrick Stewart are just absolute treasures.
They are.
This
is the movie. Like they acted together at like Royal Shakespeare Company.
Right.
Like they've known each other for 40 years or something. Right. And like this is
where
like
the thing that they solidified.
This is where they like really solidified and became best friends.
Very classically trained actors doing these roles, and it really shows.
Yeah,
it really shows.
Oh
and this was fun to see. Ian McKellen in this role because it's one of his famous ones, and I had never seen it.
Yeah,
so I've seen Gandalf. This is our second Ian McKellen experience on this podcast.
Is it?
Yeah.
When was our first?
Right. Exactly. Because it just popped in my head. Da Vinci Code.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. He's the bad guy in that.
He's the bad guy in that, which is fun.
Yeah. I love that for him.
I do too. So all right, we're like 4 bullet points in.
Oh geez.
Yeah.
Let's
we gotta pick up the pace a little bit. So oh my god, Hugh Jackman is a baby. He's just a child. He was young.
My age.
That's so weird.
My current age is the age that Hugh Jackman was when he started playing Wolverine.
I don't like it. That's just
25
wild.
years ago. 25 years ago.
He should also wear a seatbelt.
Yeah, he should. You wear your seatbelts, people. They save lives.
I'm like, but so that whole beginning sequence, like that whole lead up to the point where they like end up at
the X-Mansion.
The X-Mansion. I loved the pacing.
Yeah.
Like that was cool. Like that was a thing that I had not I haven't seen a superhero movie that started like that in a long time.
Yeah.
Or if they did, they would do it for like just a second just to like be like, hey, we're edgy, like whatever. Like it was just like this honestly paced out so well because it set a couple of different components in motion just to kind of get you in the sense of it, and then it just built up nice slow boil. Like it was good. It was good pacing, and I really liked it. And then I loved the idea of like everything in Magneto's lair just being metal.
Oh my god!
So he could like control all of it. Like it's like it's the material that he knows, so it's the material that he has control over. There's a lot of like fun metaphors that could kind of come along with that.
Yeah.
I love that Wolverine like has this little freak out moment in X Mansion.
Yeah.
And then he like walks around and realizes he's like, I should put a shirt on, and just like steals a shirt. Which I'm just like, I appreciate that. Like comes up not wearing a shirt and he's like, you know what? I'm walking around a strange thing. Here's a shirt. I'm going to put a shirt on.
Also, I kind of want to do like a side-by-side comparison of early Wolverine versus like later Wolverine, Hugh Jackman, where he's, super jacked and dehydrated roles.
Right.
Because like just seeing those two side by side, because in this one, he's muscular, but he's not like six-pack abs and
he's just a
bulging
guy.
veins. He's just a guy.
Right.
And this goes back to like my issues with, Hollywood beauty standards.
Right.
Like male actors having to get to that that like shrink wrapped six-pack abs. Like they have to dehydrate themselves for days.
Right.
And they Henry Cavill, I think, said something about like by day 3 you can smell water. You get so dehydrated that you can smell water, and I'm like, that's torture.
That's really bad. And
that's
just
so bad.
And this is my other thing with like the glossy like modern like design cues of the MCU kind of plays into that, right? Like then you start to look at characters like Wolverine, who existed kind of before the full modern MCU design language, and you see how he as a character changes to conform with that new design.
In this movie he's got kind of a hairy chest because he's a Wolverine. He's hairy.
It makes sense. He's a hairy
guy. Canadian. He's hairy. It's basically a badger. I don't know
exactly.
But like, and I think in later movies he's got the waxed. I don't know. I would have to do some research on that.
Yep.
Maybe I'll post it on the Facebook
page. Yeah.
Anyway,
we can do some social media stuff with that. Yeah, it'd be kind of fun to see.
Yeah.
I love that Professor X has an Aston Martin as a car. That's super fun. And then like the whole like we got to protect our children with the mutant thing.
Yeah.
Like the signs. I'm like, okay, that's that.
Protect our children from.
Yep. Mutants or insert other marginalized group.
Literally.
And
drag and drop.
Yep. And then Mystique the whole time I'm just like bloobs. The whole time. Because I'm 12.
Okay. Yeah. That level of makeup is crazy.
Okay. So immediately like the second that like he wakes up and he's like gonna attacks Jean Grey, I'm just like, does that like there's got to be a name for this trope where like they like the wakes up and is like violent and it just ends up being like that there's like a love tension there. Like I don't know what that is,
I don't know what that would be, but yeah, it's like I know what you're talking about.
It's there, and I've always been like, is this bad? Like
is this bad?
Is this a problem? He
wakes up and attacks
the person, then he ends up
who becomes his love interest.
Yeah, I don't know. Why do we do that so often? And can we not?
I don't know.
Okay. So, I love Magneto's drama, like with like stars. He is a dramatic bitch.
He is the queen of dramas, and I love him for it.
I think that is just phenomenal, and I have no notes for any of that.
Zero.
A lot of problems with Magneto on a whole, but like his drama is always appreciated.
He is like the Anakin Skywalker of drama.
He hates sand. He truly hates sand. Yeah.
He will do the dramatic robe flourish if he wants.
Cyclops' like shitty Oakley sunglasses crack me up the whole time. Like wearing.
Those are actually Oakleys.
Are they actually Oakleys?
And I think they gave James Marsden a lifetime supply of sunglasses.
Amazing. That's phenomenal.
Just forever wearing Oakleys.
So this is Rogue to me was an interesting character that I feel like I sort of just hear me out. This is gonna go kind of in a weird like I should be talking to my therapist instead of you kind of thing about this.
That's why we have a podcast.
I know. I hope at least I'd hope somebody finds this conversation entertaining.
Yeah.
She her powers are interesting from like perceiving it from like a metaphorical psychology perspective.
Right.
This idea of like I hurt people that I'm close to.
Yeah.
I just or I'm scared about like absorbing too much of them, or like feeling like that lack of barrier, like that lack of like in her case physically, but like this lack of firewall, like she has to like insulate her personality. Like she is a profoundly lonely character when you kind of like first start. She's very guarded. And like because she hasn't figured out like the way that she's gonna navigate. And I think I just felt very connected to her, because like I feel like that's still something that I do. Like I have a lot of like walls up, and I can do things in a way that I feel connected to people at like a certain level. But I don't have like an ungloved, literally like an ungloved connection to anybody. And I just found that to be a really like it spoke, like I've like her experience very much like spoke to me. And then the whole idea of like when he's like gonna use her, like Magneto's gonna use her for his ends, like it's literally because he's like it's exploiting her, what happens to her when she doesn't control
big vulnerability.
Like I just was like, I'm like, I get you, girl. Like I just like I understand. I see you. Like I see you, baby. Like from a, obviously not literally, because I am not a mutant, but like you know what I mean. Like that's the vibe. I
understand.
But anyway, that was just like I just felt connected to Rogue in that way, and I'm sure I'm not the first person who's like latched in that way. But we gotta watch the rest of these, because holy shit, I know we have a lot to talk about.
The character development.
Oh, I'm so excited.
You'll plots.
Oh, good.
Maybe, I don't know.
All right.
Probably.
Before I realized that it was Mystique that was being shitty to Rogue, I was like, Bobby, what the fuck?
I know.
And I was like, oh, never mind.
Oh, it's it kills me that like they had to do all the cutscenes when that actor has a twin brother.
I know, all these like double shots that was going to be, it must have been a pain on set and in post, and he was like, oh yeah, I have a twin brother.
Like
stupid.
Like you didn't say anything, Sean. Come on, buddy. Jesus.
Dude.
Get it together.
So Cerebro. The first thing when I saw it, I'm like, oh, this is like Mr. Incredible goes in to like look up like in like the first Incredibles movie. You know, like that room. That's the vibe I got. I don't know why.
I mean, they're not similar.
Oh, I see. Wolverine's just going to be a pain in the ass the whole time. He actually ended up being great, which I knew that was the development, but I'm like, oh, he stole the bike, of course.
He's just, you know.
He's been used to relying on himself.
Yeah, he's a stray cat.
And which is a good kind of like sort of connection, sort of like I'm trying to think of the right word to say this, sort of like a through line, or similar to, he's like a Magneto in the rough, because he's got this like, I've like shitty shit has happened to me. I've been having to fully rely on myself. And so the idea of him being like trying to get help from others is like really hard for him, because he's been so used to just relying on himself and not trusting anybody to be like there to help him. And so he's sort of like what Magneto could be but isn't. And I feel like Professor X sort of understands
gravitates towards that, because that's his type.
Yep.
Sorry.
He's got a type.
Professor X has a type.
100%.
I mean, Wolverine's like he's like a stray cat. Right. You know, like you can bring them inside, but it'll take them a while to
fully
really understand
and trust. Yeah. Right. I love the metaphor of the politician becoming literally elastic. Like, just like, oh, he's all over the place.
Literally just made of Jello.
Jello now.
You have the moral backbone of a chocolate eclair.
I've got Senator all over my shoes. I was literally jump scared by the World Trade Center. Because it was 2000 and I was just like, right. Because I was thinking of this movie, like it just, the way it plays doesn't feel that old.
No.
So it was I'm like, this dates this film a lot. Shit. Like this is like, So I got jump scared by the World Trade Center.
I didn't notice them.
Yeah, it was brief. It was very brief.
I bet it was just an establishing shot.
Yeah. America was going to be the land of tolerance. There is no land of tolerance. I was like,
going to be. I feel like that should be.
That got
that should be our motto.
That should really be our motto.
Like,
going to be.
We were going to be.
That was the entire intention.
That was what they wanted it to be. But when you rely on slave labor, and then push that debate off until 1808 or whatever.
Yeah, it's that disquiet, like that. Well, I don't love it, but it does benefit me. Yeah. Like that is sort of like we have a history of doing that. Mm-hmm. Anyway. We swear we don't try to make things political. It's just the way these things work.
Well, okay. The whole, everything is political, people.
Everything is political.
Everything is political.
Right.
Every decision you make, it's all political. It's all inherently political.
Right,
and if you think it's not,
you can
crack open a fucking history textbook because it is.
And if you choose to bury your head in the sand on certain things,
yes,
just because you don't want to know what the implications are for other people, like that's something you have to think about. Like,
look inside yourself and
go
to therapy.
Take a look at yourself, you dumb slut.
Take a look at yourself, you dumb slut.
Oh god, that's How I Met Your Mother, because that's J-Lo. Oh, that just popped out of my head out of nowhere. I love that their planning table looks like those like pinboard things. Like that was super cool. That's
a really cool effect.
Yeah.
Also, a lot of the effects held up.
I was not mad, which is why I was like, it felt like the whole thing played like a much more modern film because it just it was good. Like I just was didn't question it.
Yeah.
Super, super good. I feel like watching Deadpool before this sort of is like watching The Farce first.
Yeah.
And that was sort of weird. I'm like, oh, I feel like, I don't know. Like it's sort of like this filled in some blanks about Deadpool, but I also feel like it sort of cheapened Deadpool.
Well, also Deadpool, I think, takes place in a slightly different X-Men universe.
Oh god.
And it's like
right.
McAvoy or Stewart. These timelines are so confusing.
Yeah, right.
It's and that's kind of where Deadpool lands for me.
Right.
Is just sort of like in a nebulous, maybe Stewart or McAvoy. Who knows?
Right.
Like,
who's to say?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Toad is ick.
Toad is gross.
Yeah, Toad is super gross.
Okay, so that is a superpower I would never want to have.
No.
My question to you is, what superpower would you like to have? If we want to limit it, like what superpower of the X-Men?
That
would you want to have? Or in this movie?
Knowing who I am as a person, right? I feel like I would probably want to have the powers of Professor X.
Okay.
Only because...
Don't you?
Well, you give me what the fuck it's called, and maybe... Cerebro, yeah. And that's kind of where I'm at. Like, it's a thing that I've built my superpower based on my own mental problems, and so like just having the actual superpower might be just nice, to just deal with. It might.
I want you to watch, say, Days of Futures Past. Like, I want to skip ahead because holy shit, skip.
We have to go through them.
We will.
We'll just
get there.
Power through it. Yeah. But maybe we have to check in at the end of this deal and be like, maybe do you still want the same powers? Do you want different ones?
I want Magneto powers.
Yeah.
Mostly because.
Yeah.
To me, they're the most limitless. Do you know how much shit is made out of metal?
No, 100%. No.
So much shit.
I think that it's let me put it this way. I like so limitless is one way to say it. I would also say most open-ended.
Yeah.
Because I think that's actually one of my problems with some of this is it's like
what's the limit of your power?
It goes back to the Doctor Who problem where it's just like, is this like, does anything matter anymore? Yeah. But anyway,
So in later movies, we will see. I'm gonna it's not really a spoiler, but eventually they start giving the mutants levels.
Oh.
So like, are you a a level 1, 2, 3, 4, I think.
Sure. Okay.
Or maybe I don't know.
Okay.
But I think it goes up to 6. I don't know. It's been a while since I've watched.
Okay.
And it mostly comes up in X3, which is the one I've seen the least of because reasons.
Yep.
But like Magneto is like top tier mutant.
High level,
high
very
level,
scary,
very
lots
scary.
of ability to control a lot of
things.
things.
Can do a lot of stuff that, you know, you wouldn't think of.
Right.
So yeah, I think the way he uses his power can be really creative and really fun.
I want Professor X to have a book on his desk that's just how to win friends and influence people. I was just like, Mystique,
how to deal with your crazy
ex-boyfriend. Classic.
Yeah.
Mystique feels kind of OP. And then I was like, wait, no, Storm feels kind of OP.
They're all kind of OP, but you know what?
That's kind of the point, right?
Yeah.
Mystique's like kind of shiny design to me was kind of cool because like the idea of Mystique being a shapeshifter or like having that like visual illusion deception thing and being like I always see mirrors and shiny light refraction as like being kind of a hallmark of that. So it was a cool design choice.
Yeah.
Crazy design choice in general for that character, but very interesting.
Yeah.
Something I noticed kind of at the end was Wolverine's like skill set makes his like combat and his experience with those combatants very intimate, which is interesting. Like you can tell it like has a toll on him.
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting. Like it seems like that kind of came across more than I've seen in other like melee fighters. Like his psyche is very damaged by the fact that like the way he fights is very up close and very intimate with the people that he's fighting with.
Well, because I mean, he basically just has knives.
Exactly.
And boxing.
Yeah.
That's kind of just
it's just very violent.
Because like Storm can, you know, zap people with lightning and
it's very disconnected.
The telekinetic, you can do stuff
away,
further away, and
even Magneto
got his little, you know, eye lasers and
right.
But yeah, it's very. I guess he is the most intimate.
Yeah.
Like fighting style because he has to get up close
and
he doesn't have that. He doesn't have any distance
power
weapons.
That he's no ranged attacks.
Range attacks.
Yeah, exactly.
He's a monk.
He's literally a monk.
He's literally a monk fighter.
Truly.
Sorry, we're getting into D&D.
Yeah, well, it's bound to happen eventually.
Which is funny because I usually play sorcerers, which is basically all. I mean, it depends on the spell, but
it depends on the spell.
I prefer ranged attacks.
I usually do, except not in this current playthrough.
No.
Classic. Jesus, Patrick, the chest hair. Lander's like,
this is literally just like
damn, dude. Hilarious. And then he wakes up again at the end. Wolverine does, Logan does, and he wakes up and Jean's standing over him, but he's not violent this time. I'm like, it's sort of a full circle thing.
Yeah.
And that is all of my notes.
But like, I mean, just when did they have time to fall in love? It's fine. Whatever.
I know.
I don't give a shit. She's pretty. He's hot. I don't give a shit. Whatever.
This has always been my complaint.
Grumble. Apparently, I think I don't know if it was comic books or if it was just fan art that I saw, where that love triangle becomes just a full-on throuple.
Classic. I can see that happening.
I kind of want it, mostly because, like, you can tell, and there's more to come in that
phrasing
realm.
Sorry, I'll see myself out.
But like Scott and Logan, like, they don't like each other,
but they respect each other.
And they can also like fuck around with each other, you know, like Logan, like they banter.
Yeah,
it's almost flirtatious. To me,
their dislike isn't at like a core level.
No.
Yeah, it's
more
almost
like,
because
you're just like a goody two shoes, and you're the rough and tumble.
It's like they're the
School of Hard Knocks guy.
They're literally, they're like the law abiding good. They're the Captain America and kind of not quite Tony Stark, but like
that. Yeah.
And so, but they're both kind of aware of that. Like, it's almost like they're self-aware of the role that they are in this film and of each other.
Yeah.
And they're kind of like almost would be friends despite that, except they have to be there.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It is funny though. They do have like a good level of banter.
And like, and Logan just keeps stealing Scott's motorcycle.
That is pretty funny. That's a great bit.
I'm gonna take that.
And I like that. Yep.
That's shiny.
This is good. I like it.
All right. Fuck you, Scott.
Fuck you, Scott. Should we rate this thing?
Yes.
I'm not sure how we're gonna. This is gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Production and design. I mean, like, it did what it was supposed to do. So do we call that a 5 or do we call that...
I'd say like a 4. Mostly, I mean, it's nothing exceptional. Yeah, it's not very... I guess this isn't a move. This isn't like a very...
It's not high art in terms of its design.
I was gonna say,
it wasn't supposed to be.
Like,
but also, like, there are stuff
super aesthetic-y, but it's very...
It's 2000s. It's very practical. I love, like, there was a lot of bits that a lot of chrome. Like, it had a very specific flat design style, but at the same time, there were parts of it that kind of took me by surprise, like Magneto's like containment area where it's all like
the plastic prison.
Some really cool design stuff. Yeah. But like generally, I found like a lot of the props to be kind of cheap, cheap looking. I don't think they were actually cheap. But let's give it like a 4.
Let's go with a 4.
Yeah. Story rating. Honestly, I'm cool with giving it a 5.
Yeah.
Not like specifically because of just like this exact plot arc,
right?
But because of like the way that the story itself was written was just written well and well. The dialogue was good, and
it's good. It's got good pacing.
Yeah.
It's got, there's that building of expectation, like, Magneto attacked Wolverine and Rogue,
right?
And like the whole point was, Magneto wants Rogue, not Wolverine, but everyone thinks he wants Wolverine. Right. It's the MacGuffin of that.
100%. Yeah, it was good. It was just a good. It was. I don't know. It played really well, and the dialogue felt like natural without being like. It felt correct. It just felt good.
Right.
Yeah.
It felt good.
That was gonna be a line there. I'm not gonna say what I was gonna say. Performances rating. I would. On it,
you have 2 classically trained Shakespearean actors playing, what society would say are kind of campy comic book characters. But again,
they played it with this. I call it Michael Caine and Muppets.
Yep.
Like
I was just gonna say.
Yeah, like the
Muppet Christmas Carol.
They both acted like it was the most serious role they've ever taken, and it shows. I think that
which lends that weight.
Yeah, there was some.
The movie.
I'm gonna summon Kevin. The gravitas to the situation, I think, is a thing. I think that works well. I don't know that everyone was equally as
right.
But it was fine. Like I don't think anyone was not holding their part.
Yeah.
Not every character was as had as much screen time, frankly.
Right.
Like I know, like it was
but
like,
ensemble cast
is what it is. Like I think honestly, like I'm like, oh yeah, Storm's in this movie, and then like she ended up being really cool by the end of it. But like the first like 2/3, I'm like, is she even in this film?
Here?
Yeah. Like what are we doing,
in
gang?
The room with us?
Yeah. It was just very weird. But I think I'd give it a 5. Yeah. Cultural impact. I'm cool giving this a 5 personally.
Because I mean, like I said before, this is the movie that set off. It literally set the stage for, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies and the early 2000s. Like the Fantastic Four, Daredevil.
Yeah.
Other superhero movies that I'm forgetting that happened in pre 2005.
Right.
Which eventually led to Iron Man and the entire MCU. So the cultural impact of this is huge.
Right. To me, and this is like Ian doing a hot take that maybe isn't. Maybe it's just my own weird thing, but it feels like this movie the MCU has been chasing to achieve ever since. because I feel like this genuinely was a really good movie that was also happened to be a comic book movie, and it feels like the MCU is just like, well, that was a good film, but it's also like bubbled in the fact that it is an MCU movie. Yeah, like it's not a I don't mean this to like disparage the whole MCU because I don't dislike it at all. I just feel like that they're very specific. They're a specific kind of media that isn't like a lot of other movies. But anyway, so that gives us a 4.8, and that puts us in that we're tied with White Christmas and Coco.
Okay.
And just above that is Sorry to Bother You, and just below that is Wolf of Wall Street.
Okay.
So
nice.
An interesting place to be, honestly.
I had hoped this one would rank highly. I knew you'd like it.
Yeah,
I think you're gonna really like X2.
Good. Excellent.
So,
well, all right. Well, I am very stoked to continue this X-Men adventure.
Your superhero palette cleanser.
Yeah, I'm really needing it right now. It feels like the right content. Everyone, if you haven't watched it, please just go watch it.
Watch it. It's so good.
It's nice. It's a nice feeling. It's just a better callback to a better time.
Simpler time.
Yeah, exactly. But all right. Well, on that note, thank you so much for listening to Film School Slacker. I'm Ian.
I'm Megan.
We will see you in the next one.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Film School Slacker. Our graphic design is by Mitch Ransdell. Music by Ariel Shalom and Ziv Moran. Voiceover audio provided by Mike D and Janet Paoni. Learn more at filmschoolslacker.com.